Hey everybody, it's Dan, and I'm about to start building a new guitar, and I thought you might like to come along with me as I do at least some of that stuff. I've got all the parts that I need for a Cabronita telly. This is a telly with vintage TV Jones sort of like Gretsch Filtertron pickups in it. Sounds very different from a telly. It's much more rock voiced, it's very muscular, different routing and everything. I haven't made any of these parts. I've got the parts. This was a gift. I wound up buying all the rest of the stuff. I got a neck, I've got pickups, I've got wiring, but none of it is together. And so that means that I am starting purely from parts, and I have to make it all into a playable, fun guitar. I'm starting that now, and I figured it might be worth documenting some of that. So if you've ever wondered, can I put together a guitar from parts? I can. Well, I guess we're going to find out if I can, but you probably can too. And so I'll share what I'm learning as I go. I've repaired a few guitars, but I've never put one together from parts from scratch. So this is a first, so let's go. All right, so we're starting with the body, obviously a fantastic metallic purple color. This all just came finished. This is as you see it. I believe it's basswood. So this is finished, primed, everything that you would need. It's got holes for one volume, one tone, and a toggle selector switch between the two pickups that's going to be here. It's also pre-drilled for a hardtail bridge, a fixed bridge. So no tremolo, that works for me. This is from a company called Guitar Fetish. They make a line called GFS. That's sort of their nice, affordable but high-end line. So on the back, there is a control cavity where the controls would go, the two knobs and the switch. And all the wiring, there are holes drilled within the body for me to run wiring through. And then these are the 6 string holes that go straight through the body. I like that design. It's a classic. And I've got little sort of silver filing things to go in there to catch the strings. And then, of course, the holes for the neck are pre-drilled, but the neck itself is not. So this is actually the very first thing that I'm going to do, putting this piece together, is make sure that the neck is where it needs to be so that it matches up to these pre-drilled holes. So this is what we start with. What I'm going to need to do is get a neck for this, and also I'm going to need to shield with some black paint inside of these cavities where the pickups go to try to keep interference out from the whole thing. And then of course I'm going to have to wire it up. I've got all the parts that I need. I've got knobs, I've got the bridge, and I'm going to start putting that together this week. And we'll see how it goes. But it starts, obviously, with the fun of a body. For the neck, I wanted to save money, but I found a nice neck on sale. Now, this is a Mighty Mite neck. That's the brand. They've made replacement necks for guitars since the 70s or 80s. I always wanted a bird's eye maple neck. And bird's eye is just the type of maple it is. It's heavily figured. It has these little tiny circles as a naturally occurring pattern up and down the neck. I've just always found that attractive, but it costs more. And being, let's say, frugal instead of cheap, I never wanted to pay for the extra expense of a neck. And if you get a replacement neck directly from a major company, it might be closer to $250 or $300. This was... I think it was priced at $170 and I got it for about $135. It did need a little bit of work. The frets needed a little bit of cleaning up. They were a little sharp. Not too bad though. This was actually in really good shape. I also added some hipshot tuners to this. These are simple screw-in models. They're very nice. I highly recommend these. These come with little plates so you don't have to drill any holes in the neck. I have ruined a guitar neck already trying to learn what I'm doing with all of this, and I found out that this for like $60, this is a really good option. Whatever holes are already in your neck, this just drops straight in, and you don't have to put any more screw holes in it. They don't even have to match up to the old screw holes. And these are locking tuners too, so they'll be stable. So that's stage one. This is ready to go. Here's the problem. There are no holes in the back of the neck. Obviously, 4 bolts have to go through here to match up to the body to make everything work. That's what I'm working on now. That's the first thing. So I'm putting the tuners in, and I'm going to put the bridge on the body. And between those two things, then I can accurately align the neck, because there's a little wiggle room in the pocket where this goes. So I'm going to make sure that that's absolutely dialed in perfectly. It's probably the most important thing. Does the neck match the body perfectly so that it's straight? Otherwise, you're going to see that either one of the E strings might slide a little bit off, or it might be at an angle, and you don't want that because then you're going to have to fill those holes and re-drill them, and that's not something that I know how to do. So it's vitally important that I get this right the first time. Once I do that, the rest is kind of easy. For pickups, I had a choice. This is designed for Gretsch Filtertron style pickups. So I looked around and I could go with either Gretsch pickups made overseas. I could go with Gretsch pickups that were made in America and very expensive. Or I could go with super high-end boutique pickups called TV Jones. TV Jones is the brand that's been making sort of these Gretsch 50s, 60s style humbucking pickups, an early humbucker model. The way that they used to, right? Like this is what Brian Setzer uses, this is what all the rockabilly cats use. This is considered like the highest end Filtertron Gretsch style pickup. And I wasn't really sure if I wanted to invest that much. You know, I like to find bargains. I did find this pair on sale, so I have a matching set of neck and bridge pickups. But I decided this guitar really is speaking to me, and this humbucking design is close to my beloved mini humbuckers. It's a little bit smaller than a traditional humbucker, so the sound is a little brighter and a little tighter. So I figured if I'm going to go to all this trouble, and I want this to be a special guitar that I keep forever, I was willing to invest, on sale, in the highest quality pickups that I could get. So I'm really looking forward to trying these TV Jones pickups. These screws go straight into the wood of the body. There's no springs, there's no pick guard to attach them to. It's kind of basic and brutal in that regard. You just screws into wood and music comes out. So I'm looking forward to checking this out, but I'm a little scared because I've never installed this kind of pickup before and I've never used it before. So still, got to get it right because I've invested a lot. If I don't like how this sounds, I can sell the guitar, I can replace the pickups. I got them for about 120 bucks a piece, which was on sale. So this was a major investment for me. One of these pickups cost more than the body did. And I have two pickups. So I want to make sure that these are exactly what I want. If I don't want them, somebody else will take them and I'll be able to fund a different alternative that fits in that hole. So we'll see what happens. This body came pre-drilled and pre-routed for all the electronics, but it did not come with any of the plastics. Like there's no knobs, there's no switches, there's no pick guard on this particular model, but that also means that there's no cavity cover on the back. I could have just bought one, basic black, basic white, something like that, but you know me, I wanted something with some flash. So all this is just a plastic cover. It's about 1/8 of an inch deep. Well, as it just so happens, I have a laser cutter. Some of you may have seen some of the stuff that I've done with that laser cutter in previous Rocksmith giveaways, holiday ornaments, or I've burned in the Rocksmith logo into guitar straps and things like that. Well, so I just took some measurements of this hole, found some perloid 1/8 inch acrylic, and after a couple of tries, I actually got a couple of different things, and it just drops right in there. It's all laser cut, so it's super precise. I just have to drill 2 holes, and then that will cover all the electronics when I'm all done. I might try a couple of different versions of this to see like what pattern comes out, because the acrylic itself is masked so it doesn't scorch or burn when I use the laser cutter. It is a laser. But I'm really happy with this. Like, this is something that I can say I made myself, and it's truly custom for this build. All right, so the last thing that I did was I painted some conductive paint to shield the cavities. This is to try to cut down on hum or electromagnetic interference. I don't know if this guitar really needs it. Some guitars have it, some guitars don't. Generally, in this style of guitar, if you had a pick guard that went over top of it, there would be foil shielding underneath it to try to reduce that. We're not doing that. We're just going to be putting the pickups directly into the wood. So, my next goal is to attach the neck to the body, and I have a neck that does not have the holes pre-drilled. The body does, so we're using that as the example. In order to do that, I need to clamp it in place and make sure that it's aligned. Then that leads to the next question. How do you know that a neck is perfectly aligned before you start drilling holes in it? One method is to put tuners on the neck, which I have done, and then install the bridge in the guitar, which I'm about to do. And then from there, you put 2 strings, one on each side of the neck, the E's, and they act as straight edges. So you can sort of wiggle the neck around while it's clamped in place, make sure that it's just where it needs to be so that those strings are not falling off of either side. Then mark holes in the neck, and then come out with a drill press and do the really scary part of getting 4 holes in exactly the right spot. There are folks that'll tell you that it doesn't need to be really exactly the right spot, close enough. You can sort of pull it, you can wiggle it. It's wood, it's soft, it'll give a little bit, but this is the part of the whole thing that I am the most nervous about. The second most nervous part is installing the bridge. So this is a bridge that I've used before on other projects. It's a hardtail bridge. It's a Stratocaster style bridge with 6 individual saddles. It's got 3 screws that are going to attach it to the body. The holes that the strings will go through were already drilled on this body, so I've just aligned this. It aligns perfectly. The tape should be fine to keep the bridge in place while I'm drilling. Just because I'm paranoid, I found a couple of small screwdrivers that I can put into the screw holes, into the string holes, which might give it a little extra stuff, or it might get in the way, honestly. I don't know. I clearly don't know what I'm doing. All I really did was I made sure that I had the right size drill bit for the pilot holes that the bridge's manufacturer recommended. It's a hip shot bridge. They suggested a 5/64 drill bit. I had, like most people have drill bit sets and they go everywhere and you completely forget which one is which. So I pulled out digital calipers and measured it. This is the correct bit. So all I have to do is do 3 simple, straight down holes in the body and then put screws in there and it'll stay tight. Even if I'm a little bit off, like let's say it's just a smidge off, I should be able to compensate that with the saddles and it would be okay. But because you can't undrill something, I'm nervous. So I have this in slow speed, and I'm gonna try to align it so that I've got this in the center or close enough to the center that it won't matter. And I think I'm ready to go. God, I'm so frightened, but I did it right. Okay, the first hole looks pretty good. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the right side. I feel like I'm in the center of the hole, and here we go. I don't even know how far down to go. I think in a previous video I said this was basswood. It's not, it's poplar, so it's very soft. It's time to do the third. And then I'll go through this probably with a hand screwdriver and screw in the bolts that came with the screws that came with it. It came with 3 screws that are the correct size. So these are just pilot holes. I'm switching the drill to reverse to take it out. I'm not yanking anything. I'm going real slow. So I have 3 holes pretty much where I wanted them to be. I may need to actually make them a little bit wider. I'll see when I try to test fit the screws. If the screws just aren't going in, that means that I was too gentle and I used the too small of a bit. I've got larger bits. I can always take more wood out of a guitar body, but it's a pain in the butt putting it back in. So these are the screws that came with it. They're about 1 inch long. I probably did nowhere near that depth when I did the pilot hole, but these should slot right in. And I have my lucky screwdriver. I have very few lucky things in my life, but this screwdriver has helped me build PCs, guitars, you name it. Anything that needs a screwdriver. This crappy little screwdriver from Target has been my best friend. Okay, so it's pulling on a lot of wood. My wife points out, and she comes from a woodworking family, pilot holes are just there to give the screw something to grab onto to begin with. After that, you kind of do want it biting into a lot of wood. If you make the pilot hole too big, then it's just a hole and not a pilot hole at all. So I am, it's not bad. I mean, I want it to be super secure, but it is definitely there. So now I can take away my tape. Oh, it actually was not aligned correctly. This is a mini nightmare for me. It probably is okay, Like this, look at the string holes and where the string holes are for the bridge. The strings will pass through these holes unimpeded. That's really not a problem. They're gonna go up into saddles anyway, so they won't be making contact with anything here. This is fine. But, you know, I don't know any better, so everything I kind of want to be perfect. Those of you watching who have more experience with woodworking or guitar building are probably like, what are you talking about? That's fine. But to me, like the fact that I can see from this angle some of the overhang there, you know, like I'm not I'm not 100%, but I think that's fine. I think I'm probably being too anal, and it doesn't matter. So from here, now we can start aligning the neck. So while I'm out here, I've realized I can put the string ferrules in. Ferrules are the tiny little pieces of metal, little metal cups that go in the back of a hardtail guitar. And when the string with a ball end or a bullet end or whatever end you have on there, that's what it catches into. This is what keeps it secure. I didn't know if these would be, I just ordered these because they were set. They're like, yeah, vintage Telecaster style body, these work. And I'm like, okay, I hope so. And they did sort of sit, and I was like, oh, okay, they didn't like go in smoothly. You kind of don't want them to. In the same way that you want a screw to catch onto some wood, you want to tap these into place. But of course, you don't want to tap them into place with like a giant hammer, but a giant rubber mallet is okay. So that's what I did for this one. We'll do a couple more to show you, but it's a little finishing step. I would say it's necessary. I've never seen a guitar without them, but it's one of those details that I almost forgot, and when I was building all the parts list, I had to go, oh, don't forget ferrules. I just bought them off of Amazon. You know, they're easy enough to find, but yeah, that's going to be one more thing before I put strings in it. These little string holder ferrules are going to be installed first. That's it. I mean, it's just a couple of taps with a soft hammer of some sort. I don't have to hit it too hard to get it to snug in. These are never coming out. They're designed to never come out. Look at that. Pretty as a purple thing. So here we are. I have installed the rest of the bridge. I put the saddles back on the bridge, and the ferrules are installed, so I was able to put some strings on. Now the purpose of these strings, these are just 9s. I have some spare 9s. I'm not even sure why. I don't even play 9s normally, but I found in my kit that I have a bunch of 9s. I just need something to act as a straight edge, and it's a lot easier to put strings on either side and then clamp the middle of the neck and see when you wiggle it around in the pocket where it should be. So pretty easily here I can see, all right, well that looks good actually. Like, I can take lots of measurements if I want, but really this is kind of, are the E strings falling off the sides of the neck? If they're not, then it's probably okay. So from here I would turn around and I would mark holes through the body holes into the neck, so that then I can take the neck off again and do the actual drilling. Okay, what I'm doing now is I've got this clamped in the right place. I've looked at the strings. The strings all look properly aligned, and I'm going in with a drill bit, specifically a brad point drill bit that Brian Pody suggested I use. And now that I know that I really like where this is, I'm marking the back of the neck with little dimples based on the spiky point on this drill bit. And that's going to let me know where to drill tomorrow when I do it. I just have to go, I'm going to have little indentations that show me exactly where to drill, and I should be all set. This will be the drill bit that I use. It's a 3mm bit. It's the same as a 1/8 bit for all math purposes, and that's what is traditionally used on this style of guitar, so I feel pretty good about it. I just have to go slow, and I have to make sure that I put a little piece of masking tape on this as a flag to let me know when I've drilled enough. I will need to put the neck plate on and then go through the body to see how deep into this neck I should be cutting. I should not be cutting terribly deep. I will not want to go the whole length of that drill bit, so I need to know physically with some sort of physical symbol. A lot of people just use a little masking tape, blue tape, something like that, that as the drill bit is going down, when the tape starts making contact with the body, as I read online, one person said as the tape starts sweeping away the shavings, you're done. So there is a little sort of eyeballness to all of this, but I think I can do it. All right, now if you take a look, I've got 4 distinct holes in the corners around that Mighty Mite logo. I've colored it in with pencil so that you can see them. So those are my pilot holes. So I've just measured the depth of the neck pocket and the neck plate that I intend to use. And I took a look at how far the actual screws that will be dropping in here, how far they stick out, right? They stick out about that far. Okay, so that's what I want. I don't need to drill any deeper than that into the neck, and of course, any further above that, we're going to start risking poking into the fretboard itself, which I don't want. So, in order to make that happen, here is my drill bit, and my drill bit has a little flag on it in the tape. So when I am using a drill press, or even if I use a hand drill, I think I'm going to use the drill press, but when I use the drill press, I drill into the neck up to the point that... Oh, have I done this backwards? Maybe I've done this backwards. Okay, I rechecked my math, following my rule of measure 1,000,000 times, drill once. This is a different depth. This is just as much as I need to drill into the neck. I had, for some reason, gotten confused and included the length of the screw that would be going through the body, which is already drilled. It's very important that I not drill too far, and that's what I would have done if I had used the previous calculations. So, oops. But we're good now. All right, well, here we are. It's the next morning. I have my drill press set up, and there's the neck. I have widened those holes a little bit with an awl, just to make sure that when I put the drill bit down, it goes down. That one is the one I've been sort of test fitting with my actual bit, and you can see it's got like a dagger point on it. I've also been running a couple of just tests to see how it goes on a 2x4. I've got some scrap wood. My plan is to simply put the neck there and then hold it. My father-in-law was doing some of this for me on a previous project that didn't turn out so well, but all he did was just say, yeah, just hold it in place. So as long as this doesn't move around too much, because it can, the curved frets do make it want to move, as long as it can be held in place, it's a very short, quick procedure, just boom, and it should be okay. So I've got this clamped in place. I'm only going to do one hole at a time. That's fine. But as you can see, it looks like the levels, the bubble levels, are saying I'm in good shape here. So I could do this. I still may need to put a little twist on the neck as it goes down, because it will create more pressure. But I think, God help me, I think we're ready. I'm going to just twist it a little bit as I go down, but this is the first one. And again, we stop when the masking tape hits the wood. That's it, just do it 3 more terrifying times and we're great. So, for better or worse, these are done. Cat did wind up being the human clamp. It was easier to have somebody holding it for the other 3. I just clamped for the very first one. Looking at it, it looks like this one's a little bit low. I don't know if maybe that's the way it's supposed to be based on the body holes, because this is all based on the body holes. So, I mean, it was certainly easy enough. The bits that Brian Pody recommended chewed through this maple like no problem. I got a little bit of resistance that I wasn't expecting down here. It could just be knots in the wood. It could be some irregularity, but I would much rather take it easy and then maybe go back and touch up these holes a little bit, maybe even with a hand drill if I'm concerned. I just didn't want to like poke through the other side. I did work on a fretboard once where I did that. I separated the fretboard from the heel of the neck. So that is my exhale. Now I can go see if it fits. I'm gonna put a little bit of wax on the screws to put them in so that when they go in, they go tight, they get sealed. They go in a little bit easier as lubrication, but they also will protect the wood once it's in there with a little bit of wax so that like shavings hopefully won't get, caught in there and stuff like that. But then it's off to the rest of the races for this thing. Okay, now it's time for electronics. I have set up a little soldering station on a table in my house. I don't have a permanent workshop, so I always sort of have to take everything out, set everything up, and then put it all back together again. So again, part of the let's get it right the first time vibe that I like to have. These are my pickups. I have 2 of these. These are TV Jones Classics. These are based on Filtertron pickups from the 50s. I don't normally spend this much money on pickups, but I did this time because I really want this thing to be great. And I love the sound of mini humbuckers, and these are humbucking pickups. They're just an early design. And because they are smaller than normal humbuckers, I'm thinking that I might get some of that tightness and brightness that I like out of my like Seymour Duncan and Wilkinson mini humbuckers that I have in this with sort of a retro style. The main reason I'm going with these is because the Cabronita style of guitar that I'm building was built with these in mind. It was the original models of that came with these. So I am gonna give it a shot. I've got some wiring diagrams that I've downloaded from the internet that you probably can't see. I have one from TV Jones for how to put these in a Stratocaster because that circuit was pretty close to what I want to do here. And then I have a generic humbucker with one volume, one tone, and a toggle switch rather than a blade switch like on traditional Fender stuff. So I think I'll be able to do that. It does not look terribly hard. In fact, the three-way toggle switch is easier to do than the blade switches, which have caused me some problems in the past. So with any luck, I'll have this done before dinner. So I've started to put in the pickups, and as somebody else who had this body before I did, who's built guitars, said that the pickups go very low in these. It just so happens that there's two little squares of foam that came with each pickup, and I'm betting that you put them behind the middle of the pickup in the cavity, and it rests on those screws, and then my mounting screws are on either side. So the way that this works is the body came with a channel that I run the pickup wires all the way down to this bridge cavity. This first one goes there. This one goes straight out into the back of this cavity, and I can't flip it over right now, but then behind this is where I'll be doing all the wiring. That's a knob, a toggle switch, and a knob. So so far, so good. They actually came with pretty good wiring already. The red and the green go together if you're going to use them as standard humbuckers. If you want to split them and get sort of a single coil sound out of them by coil splitting them, then you would use those. But I was going to tape them off anyway. They came pre-taped off. And then the white is hot and the black and the silver are ground. So that makes things a heck of a lot easier. I don't even have to do that. That's already done for me. And it looks like these little foam things will keep the pickups right where I want them to be. So I think it's going to look good. So on we go. I am installing the pickups. I just need to make sure that I wire them up correctly. But yeah, they're staying put. I did put those little foam blocks behind them, and that helped. Now, to flip over to the other side. And over here, this is the cavity where all the magic happens. So because I'm smart and I noticed things like this, this is the bridge pickup. I took a silver Sharpie and colored it because they are identical. They are wired exactly the same way. And when it comes to soldering, I'm going to want to know which one is the bridge pickup and which one is not. So, yeah, I'm good to go. All right, so I've been soldering things into position for the last hour or so. The volume and the tone pot. Mine says NLT. I wrote that on the back because NLT stands for no load tone pot. This is a special thing that they charge extra for, but Pody knows how to do for free. Basically, it's a tone control where the little contact material has been scraped away at the top if you turn it all the way up. So if I turn this tone control all the way up, it removes itself from the circuit entirely. It doesn't add more brightness. It just says, pretend I'm not here. Like, if I back it off to like 9 out of 10, then suddenly it acts like a regular tone control from 9 to 0. But I specifically wanted that. So there's an orange drop capacitor. I've got the volume wired to the tone. I've got the switch wired to the volume. And now I'm going to start building grounds. All the grounds inside the control cavity are going to go to the back of this tone pot. And then there's the pickups actually ground to the bridge. I have to run a little piece of wire into the bridge. I've been using this swanky, honestly, I just bought it because it seemed like it was the cool thing to do. It's a cloth-covered vintage wire. And it's kind of been a pain in the ass to work with versus the stuff that's covered in plastic, honestly. But it looks nice, and it bends nice, and it's pretty strong. So as long as my soldering parts are secure, I should not have any problem. I keep saying that at every step, don't I? I should not have any problem. I guess we still have to find out whether I have. Okay, I have just finished up wiring up everything except the ground to the bridge and the pickups themselves. And I went to drop in my wiring harness. This is all the wires the way they're supposed to be, with a couple more that still need to go in. I realized that the holes that have been drilled into the body are not big enough to pull that off right there. So I have to go in with a little tool here that is familiar to woodworkers. It's just a reamer, and the whole point of this tool is to twist a little bit and get a very little bit of wood out of those holes. This will give me enough room to slide the pots through. I bought this from a regular hardware store when I was adjusting the size of some of the tuner holes. So here is a spare potentiometer, and we just have to sort of test fit it until such time. No, it still needs some love, so I need a bigger hole to make this work. There we go. That's what it needed to be. That's a very snug fit, but that's good. And that's a snug fit too. So great. Mission accomplished. So it's assembled. I don't know if it works. I haven't pulled out a multimeter to find out if all of my wiring is correct, but you can see all the two knobs in the switch are where they should be, and on the reverse side, it's a little messier than I would like. It's a very small area though, so I don't really have much of a choice, but volume, control switch, or toggle switch, and tone knob are all in there. I also installed the jack, so that was just, honestly, it's 2 screws, and I had to find out where I wanted it to be. But I always get a little nervous at the electronics, but I'm getting better at it. I still follow a diagram, of course. There's no reason not to. But I feel pretty good. I think I'm going to leave it here for the night. Maybe come back and do a little bit more tomorrow. Maybe do some late night. I'm going to catch up with some friends online for a little while, but the amount of progress I've made today has been pretty significant. I mean, this was like my main thing to work on today. I probably put about 4 or 5 hours of work into it. But tomorrow this may actually be playable. So as far as I'm concerned, yay. If you can see the clock behind me, it says it's like 1:45. It's almost 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm still here from working on the guitar this afternoon. I've spent basically the last 11 hours with a short break working on the wiring because I read the wiring diagram wrong. I had a whole bunch of the stuff in the wrong place. Then I didn't read the diagram correctly to see that I was supposed to add an additional ground to the circuit. And then, worst of all, for the 3-way switch between the 2 pickups, I put the hot signal to the ground lug and I put ground to the hot signal. So I was just getting buzzing, and the buzzing would increase whenever I touched that thing. I was not getting any output. So I finally looked it up, the manufacturer of the switch, and they were like, oh yeah, no, the big thing, that's the ground lug. Now, yeah, I know, you're tired, I'm tired too, buddy. Don't worry. So it is wired correctly, but there's no strings on it. I'm going to check it out tomorrow. I feel like an idiot because it really was just a question of reading the diagram closer and looking up my parts that I had bought and understanding how they worked. And it's a simple mistake. It's a reversible mistake. But this was hours and hours of me resoldering, trying different parts, doing so much extra stuff that it was literally a 1 or 2 minute fix. And it took me hours. So there's your word of wisdom. Read everything and investigate everything before you just start assuming that it's a faulty part. You might have the correct part, but just in the wrong place, and that's really all it was. So whenever I wake up tomorrow, the nice thing is I know I can put strings on it and see what it sounds like. So the morning after, I sort of let it sit for a little while, but now I'm digging into setting it up. Because I had just installed the bridge, none of the saddles are in the right position, either distance or height, so the action is going to be the height and the intonation is going to be the distance. So that'll take a little while for me to dial in. I'm just putting in a set of strings, and I'll make all the adjustments with that. That's one of the things that I have to do is it's a 9.5-inch radius neck, which is just what I like. It's the curve of the fretboard. I need to use this little gauge to figure out that the saddles are in the same arc as the frets have been installed. This, I had already done some fretwork on this, so it doesn't really need that much. It's in pretty good shape, but I might find that I need to level it a little bit or something. The assembly is nice that it's all built, but the setup might take just as long because there's going to be a lot of little things that need to be adjusted, dialed in, or even just corrected. But the only thing that I've done is I know that if I tap, the wiring is okay, because if I tap the pickups with a screwdriver, it makes a noise. So I know that the wiring is correct, but I still have no idea how it sounds, and it's going to take me a little while before I can get all the strings together to find that out. All right, so it's done? Sort of. It's assembled. In putting on the strings, rebuilding the bridge, I had to swap a couple of parts out on the bridge because I was having trouble getting the intonation to work correctly. I've found there's a couple of tall frets, so I might want to do a fret job on it. I might want to tweak the truss rod. I didn't put any string trees on here. Brian Pody has always talked me out of doing string trees. He doesn't believe in them. But they would help keep the break angle reasonable, so that would be a couple more holes that I would have to drill. These are tweaks, right? These are not like the end of the world kind of things. The important things to me was, can I put it together and does it work? So I have my amp on. I have not actually heard, I have not plugged it in until right now. So this is it. It works. So when the tone is all the way up, it's out of the circuit. So I did get the no-load tone pot to work. So that is both pickups. I really like that sound. It's nice and full, but it's got a lot of treble bite. So here's the neck. Still has some of that telly spank, but a nice hollow sound to it too. Here's the bridge. Much spankier, much more trebly. Sounds like there's a hell of a lot of travel on the volume pot. I wonder if that's something that I can adjust, or if I put a wrong kind of pot in there, that could be too. That's something that I could swap out. It would be a bit of a pain in the butt, but I could do it. So let's put a little dirt on there. What do we got? Definitely that. Wow, without the tone in there, with the tone control disabled, that is bright and spanky, and I love it. I mean, like, that's kind of the sound that I want out of a Telecaster style guitar. That's with a little less. That's with the tone rolled off a little bit. So you can see it gets dark and unusably muddy if you get too low. That is a really pleasing sound to me. That's something that when I get this fully set up and it plays like butter, because right now it plays like Crisco. It's not really all that nice. Like, a lot of things can be improved, but they are little tweaks. The important thing is I got it to work after all those hours of wiring, of making mistakes and being terrified of drilling the neck. I'm really happy that it's done. Now it's a question of improving it as it goes along. is a guitar ever really done? Everybody tweaks them forever. And it's probably what this one's going to be for me. I dubbed the Amricabronita done. I'm really happy with this, and on to making it absolutely kill. But it's inspiring to play already. Like, just the sounds coming out of that, these kind of pickups with my setup, this is kind of what I was hoping that I might hear in my head. So, mission accomplished. And thanks for watching as I sort of figured it out as I go. Thanks to Brian Pody as well for lots of advice along the way, and thank you to my wife Katrin Auk for not only listening to me go, I have another problem with the guitar, but also filming what you're seeing right now. So have fun, go play guitar.